Alright, so here we're back on the Nova, and we're gonna tackle the rocker panel. Matt, the guy that owns it, came by, wire wheeled, and kind of stripped the jams out. We got into this rocker, and it's pretty bad. You guys can... So, we just picked up a new rocker, so I'm not gonna do the whole rocker. I'm gonna just scab it in up here somewhere. I'm gonna get most of this cut off. Put the straight edge up against it once more, mark where it's straight, and then that's where I'll cut my line. Right now, just to make it a little easier, like with the quarters, cutting them up into pieces. So right now I'm just going around, just kind of cutting the big chunk of the rocker off so I can get to these spot welds a little easier. Got a bunch of spot welds in here, and we're just kind of slowly putzing on this thing. So one more step. I did patch the bottoms of the doors. I can't remember if I got that in a previous video. So here's the old panel of the front door. I cut it out. You can see all the rust. It all just builds up inside of there. So here I made the new one, and then I wire wheeled, cleaned up, and primed the inside of it. And then you can see how once I got the new one on, I tried to make the inside jam look factory. Alright, so I got the rocker cut off. It took a while, a lot of spot welds. The old rocker, you can see like some of their janky patchwork. Actually, there's a hole. They just left it. I'll probably catch some slack from guys for not pulling this out, because this chunk that was in here, because of how caved in the rocker was, and you can see I took a good chunk of it off, and I asked the guy that owns this thing before we did the quarters if we should just go ahead and do the rocker, and he didn't want to. So we did the quarters. Ideally, it would have been nice to have, once the quarters were off, to have done this rocker, and then I wouldn't have had to mess around with the back of it, extending it them couple inches. However, needless to say, this is where we are now. So you can see the inner structure. I wanted to save this. There's a little bit of inner structure right here too. It all looks pretty clean, like surprisingly. I mean, you can tell it's been a race car because it hasn't seen much salt. The way I figured this out was I have a 4-foot straight edge, and I put it across the rocker, and you could see where it was caved in, and I ended up putting the straight edge along the back because this is all nice and straight. And as soon as I started having a gap, I took a Sharpie and I just marked it right there. So that's what gave me where to cut it. Up front, we don't want to have to to do the rocker proper, we would have to drill out the spot welds on this post. And I don't know, we would probably end up cutting it like this or something to remove this, so we would be able to get in there. There's no sense in doing any of that. So what I like doing is, you can see I left a bit of this lip, and that'll give it strength when I weld it. And also, it's not going to really change the position of that corner. So this corner was good on the door when we aligned the door. I'll get the rocker in place. I'll get a couple tack welds in it, and then we'll hang the door back on and make sure that everything looks good. And then I'll redo the plug welds along that. We'll go through and clean all this up. We'll wire wheel it real quick and spray paint it, or we'll get something on it. And then, like before, along all these spot welds, it'll get some weld through primer. So like up along there, it'll be weld through primer. I'll spray the back side of that with weld through primer, the back side of this with weld through primer. And now the next step, forgive me, it's like 8:30 at night. It's been a long day and I'm sick. I'm kind of battling a cold or flu. I don't know what it is, but allergies, cold, man cold. So I'm like incapacitated, pretty much in a state of coma. You guys know how it is. But this thing is gonna get cut probably like right about there. So we'll just be using that. So if anybody needs the back half of a rocker on one of these, I'll sell it to you cheap. Anyways, the reason why I didn't bother pulling this out, I mean, I did just, you know, for laughs. I got a slide hammer and I welded a piece of, I got a piece of steel plate. I'll just show you guys. I got a piece of steel plate with a hole drilled in it. So this is like a piece of 16th inch steel. Got my hole and a chain, weld that end on, and then take the hook on the slide hammer and pull on it. I gave it a couple really good ones. It didn't move at all. And I'm like, it really, to have pulled it out, it would need a frame rack, or I don't know, we'd have to get creative. We don't have time for that. I was looking along the length of this pinch weld and it was straight. And then the pinch weld along the bottom was straight. So all the damage was only in the rocker. So that's why I ended up doing it this way. We'll just cut the dent out and then we'll scab it in. So that'll, I don't know. I lost my train of thought now. I don't know, it's been a long day. Okay, so I kind of forgot to record some stuff, but we got the rocker welded on. I have the welds just kind of rough ground where it's got to be smoothed out, you know, and blended in. I got all the plug welds along the back side, and then I made sure, you know, you always want to make sure, I got a heat blanket, make sure that we don't start any fires or anything. He's got a wiring harness right here, so I don't want that to burn. But so the front here, I got a little bit of touching up to do on the welds, but otherwise it's nice and smooth. Right here, there was some weird cut, like whoever he had it before cut some kind of a bracket off. Well, they cut into the sheet metal, so I just welded that all up real quick. But now, once we get all these spot welds ground down, then the shell, all the welding will be done on the shell, and we'll be able to epoxy it finally. So until next time, take care, guys.